Today, we're diving into a really radical vision for our future with artificial intelligence. It comes from technologist and venture capitalist Kai-Fu Lee, and his argument is pretty profound. AI isn't just changing our technology, it's forcing us to completely rewrite the fundamental rules of our society.
You know, this simple question, asked by a 5-year-old, is at the absolute heart of everything we're about to explore. It's just one of those questions that cuts through all the technical jargon and forces us to face the real, human dilemma of the AI age.
So to really get Lee's proposed solution, we first have to understand the crisis he sees coming. And this isn't some far-off sci-fi scenario. He argues it's a two-front crisis that's already unfolding, and it was all ignited by a single seismic event.
Okay, so think back to 1957. The Soviet Union launches the Sputnik satellite, and it absolutely shocks the United States into action, kicking off the space race. Well, Kai-Fu Lee argues that in 2017, China had its very own Sputnik moment. But this time, the race wasn't for the stars, it was for artificial intelligence.
The stage was a match of Go, an ancient and incredibly complex game. On one side, you had Ke Jie, the best human player on the entire planet, and on the other, AlphaGo, an AI from Google's DeepMind. And over 3 games, the machine didn't just win, it systematically dismantled the human champion, revealing an intelligence that just felt, well, almost alien.
And the world, especially China, was glued to their screens. A previous AlphaGo match had drawn 280 million viewers in China alone. I mean, this wasn't some niche tech event. It was a national spectacle. Ke Jie's defeat was a massive wake-up call that sparked a nationwide mobilization in AI, from the central government all the way down to kindergarten classrooms.
But here's the twist. Lee says this new AI race isn't being fought on the same battlefield as the last tech revolution. The rules of the game have totally changed because we've entered a brand new era. See, we've moved from what he calls the age of discovery, where a few genius researchers in the West had these huge breakthroughs like deep learning, into the age of implementation. This new era isn't about inventing the next big thing. It's all about applying the powerful AI tools we already have. And that kind of work favors execution, entrepreneurial grit, and, more than anything else, data.
And this shift in what gives you an advantage is so crucial to understand. It used to be about having that handful of brilliant minds who can invent new AI. But now, Lee argues, having more data will beat a better algorithm almost every single time. So in this new world, the key resource isn't genius, it's data.
And this leads to Lee's most powerful metaphor for China's new advantage. With its massive population, super apps like WeChat that are woven into every part of daily life, and a culture that's frankly more open to data sharing, China is basically sitting on the world's largest and most valuable resource for fueling this AI revolution.
But here's the thing. While the US and China are locked in this race for AI dominance, Lee warns that they're both sprinting toward the exact same cliff. Because the geopolitical competition is just the backdrop for the real AI crisis, the massive, impending disruption to human jobs and our very sense of purpose.
And here is the gut punch, Lee's staggering prediction. Within just 15 years, AI will be capable of automating 40 to 50% of all jobs in the United States. And unlike past industrial revolutions, this change is going to be lightning fast. A steam engine had to be physically built for each factory. An AI algorithm that can be copied and distributed around the globe instantly.
And just look at the jobs at risk. We're not just talking about blue-collar work here. We're talking about radiologists whose entire expertise is in pattern recognition, accountants who work with structured data. These are highly skilled, white-collar professions. This is a tidal wave that's going to cut across every single level of our society.
Which brings us right back to that fundamental question from the 5-year-old. The crisis isn't just about economic loss. It's a potential crisis of meaning. If our value is no longer tied to our work, what is it tied to? Answering that is the challenge that sets the stage for Lee's pretty radical solution.
So how do we navigate a future where our jobs might just disappear? Lee's answer isn't some simple policy paper. It's a profoundly human blueprint. And it's one that was forged not in a lab or a boardroom, but out of a personal crisis that changed absolutely everything for him.
Right at the absolute height of his career, a life-changing event forced Kai-Fu Lee to completely reevaluate his life, his work, and the very definition of human value. And it gave him an entirely new lens through which to see the AI crisis and its potential solution.
In 2013, he was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma and given just months to live. And in that moment, suddenly, everything he had built his life around,
work, achievement, maximizing his influence, it all seemed completely hollow. He realized he had been living his own life like an AI, constantly optimizing for success, viewing his family almost as a variable to manage rather than a source of real connection and love. His illness forced him to confront the cold, hard limits of that logic and rediscover what truly matters. And this is his profound conclusion. The future isn't about humans competing with AI's analytical power. That is a race we are going to lose. It's about forging a new synergy. Let AI handle the optimization, the calculations, the routine thinking, while we humans double down on the one thing machines will never, ever have: the capacity to love and be loved.
So, from this deeply personal insight, Lee proposes a concrete blueprint for reorganizing our entire society. It's a new social contract, one that's built not around economic productivity, but around human compassion and connection.
Now, a lot of people in tech propose universal basic income, or UBI, as the solution, but Lee calls this a painkiller. He says it's just a handout to sedate the displaced masses, but it fails to solve that deeper crisis of purpose. His idea is more radical: a social investment stipend. And this isn't passive income. It's a salary for doing the work of being human.
So what would this stipend actually reward? Well, 3 core things. First, care work, the compassionate support for our kids, our elderly, and the sick that machines just can't replicate. Second, community service, the human-to-human work of building stronger neighborhoods. And third, education, pursuing creativity and lifelong learning. It's about paying people to do the things that truly make us human. Ultimately, Lee's blueprint presents us with a choice. We can treat this massive transition as a simple resource problem, or we can seize it as a once-in-a-civilization opportunity to build a more compassionate and purposeful society. So the final question isn't about what the machines will do to us, but about what we will choose to value in ourselves.